From our Chicago studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I am Samana Siddiqui. Our top story tonight. Many U.S. voters believe President Joe Biden is too old to run for re-election in 2024. According to a Wall Street Journal poll, Biden and former President Donald Trump are neck and neck for possible re-election. Despite the small age gap between the candidates, 73% of voters expressed concerns about Biden's age. They felt that at 80 years, he is too old for a second term. In contrast, 47% of voters expressed similar concerns about 77-year-old Trump. When Biden was sworn in on January 20th, 2021, he was the oldest living president at age 78. Should he win a second term, he would begin it at age 82 and end it at age 86. Republican and Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is addressing concerns that his recent health problems are affecting his leadership abilities. Upon returning to the Senate, McConnell's office released a letter from the Capitol physician confirming the 81-year-old is fit to return to work. But questions persist within and outside the Senate about his health, particularly after two on-camera incidents this summer. Critics within McConnell's own party have questioned his ability to continue in office. Yet many senators, including John Thune, John Cornyn, and John Barrasso, have expressed support for McConnell. McConnell's recent medical reports have ruled out serious neurological conditions such as stroke or seizure disorder. The American Civil Liberties Union has expressed concern about the initiation of criminal cases against asylum seekers from Muslim-majority countries. Advocates for the ACLU say the U.S. Attorney's Office in Texas is using an obscure law that requires border crossers to report to a border crossing and report their entry. This law has been used disproportionately against people from Muslim countries. According to an investigation by the Los Angeles Times, the U.S. Attorney's Office in Del Rio, Texas, arraigned more than 200 people for breaking this law starting in October 2021. More than 60% of them were from Muslim-majority countries such as Afghanistan, Syria, Iran, and Mali. The Times suggested this may be due to the FBI's desire to recruit Muslims as informants. Prosecutors in Del Rio, Texas, stopped charging under this law in April, but federal prosecutors have continued this practice. The ACLU has called for an investigation into whether prosecutions are motivated by discrimination. The FBI has long used informants to infiltrate and disrupt Muslim communities. There have been concerns the practice has led to wrongful prosecution of innocent people. Rula Alouche, a Muslim lawyer and civil rights advocate, has been named the Cincinnati Enquirer newspaper's Woman of the Year for 2023. Alouche is a litigator at the Bricker Graydon law firm and has held leadership positions at several national advocacy organizations. She is also a member of the faculty of the Islamic Seminary of America. Alouche has been recognized for her work by several organizations, including the ACLU and the National Lawyers Guild. She said she was honored to be named Woman of the Year and that she will continue to fight for the rights of all people. A federal judge in Sacramento has dismissed a civil rights lawsuit filed by the Hindu American Foundation against the California Civil Rights Department. The group accused the department of misrepresenting Hinduism in its enforcement action against Cisco Systems for caste discrimination. Cisco Systems Incorporated is a U.S.-based multinational digital communications technology conglomerate commonly known as Cisco. Judge Dale Draws ruled the foundation lacked standing to sue because it had not shown it was harmed by the department's actions. The judge also found the foundation's claims were speculative and implausible. The Civil Rights Department sued Cisco in 2020, alleging the company discriminated against an engineer because he is a Dalit. In the Hindu caste system, Dalits are on the lowest rung and are referred to as untouchables by upper caste Hindus. The foundation filed its lawsuit in 2022, arguing the department's action violated the First Amendment because it defined Hinduism as a religion that required caste-based discrimination. Former Proud Boys national leader Enrique Tarrio was sentenced Tuesday to 22 years in prison for his role in the January 6, 2021 U.S. Capitol attack. It is the highest sentence handed down in connection with the riot. More than 1,000 rioters nationwide have been charged for their involvement that day. Tarrio was convicted in May of seditious conspiracy and other serious crimes. He was deemed responsible for inciting his right-wing group members against police and motivating them to prevent the certification of the 2020 presidential election on January 6th. Prosecutors sought 33 years in prison for Tario. They portrayed him as the driving force behind a plot to prevent the peaceful transfer of power to then-President-elect Joe Biden. Tario's attorneys opposed the use of a terrorism surcharge in deciding his sentence. His sister, fiancée, and mother also made statements in court asking for leniency. Tario's sentencing is the latest in a series of historic seditious conspiracy cases brought by the Justice Department after the Capitol attack. Guyana's President Mohamed Irfan Ali has stressed the importance of eliminating misconceptions about Islam in multi-religious societies. He opened an international symposium in the South American country this week, focusing on the history and heritage of Muslims in the Caribbean. Ali urged participants to develop strategies for the future of Islam in the region. The three-day symposium is a joint effort of the government, the Islamic History, Art and Culture Research Center, and the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. It is designed to foster international cooperation among scholars and educators. Its goal is to highlight the significant contributions of Muslims to the history and culture of the Caribbean, emphasizing unity, tolerance, and appreciation for religious diversity. Ali noted religion supports coexistence in a multicultural environment. He also highlighted the resilience, resistance, and pluralism of the Muslim experience in the Caribbean. Nearly 300 Muslim students in Abaya defy French ban. Details after the break, so stay tuned, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. Nearly 300 Muslim girls in Abaya defied a French ban on the garment in schools. The abaya is a loose, full-length robe. The ban was implemented last week, with the government citing France's principle of secularism in support of the move. Students who refused to remove their abayas were sent home. The French education minister claims he does not want students to be identified by their religion by wearing a particular outfit. The group Muslim Rights Action has filed an appeal with the Council of State to seek the ban's suspension. The abaya ban has sparked a backlash against the government, which has been criticized in recent years for anti-Muslim statements and policies. It is part of a broader effort by the French government to promote secularism in schools. In related news, France's highest court began deliberations on the government's abaya ban on Tuesday, with a decision expected in 2 days. Vincent Brengard, representing the Muslim Rights Action, approached the court. Brengard said that they filed an appeal with the Council of State to seek the suspension of the ban at school. He said the ban violates several fundamental freedoms. On the first day of the new school year, close to 300 students wore an abaya despite the ban. Of these, more than 60 students refused to remove it. The Taliban administration in Afghanistan has urged a delegation of Islamic scholars to be patient on the issue of girls' education. The group has closed all high schools and universities for girls and women in the country. The delegation from the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, which represents Muslims in 57 countries, emphasized that education is a common right of men and women. It also told Taliban leaders that, along with religious education, modern education leads to the development of society. Afghanistan's acting Interior Minister Khalifa Sirajuddin Haqqani told the delegation the issue of girls' education will be solved according to the conditions. Haqqani said education is a shared need of Muslims and asked the delegation to have patience in this regard. The Taliban administration did not give a clear timeline for when girls' education will resume in Afghanistan, but they assured the delegation they are committed to providing education to all Afghans, including girls. The OIC delegation praised some decrees of the Taliban on women's rights, saying they have helped prevent oppression and abuse of women and ensured their inheritance rights. During the African Climate Summit in the Kenyan capital Nairobi this week, experts have been emphasizing that Africa holds solutions to the global climate crisis. Katangole Hadija of Kampala International University in Uganda says African countries are rich in renewable resources such as solar, wind, and geothermal energy. However, she stresses that Africa cannot fight the climate crisis alone. Hudhaifa Busulwa of Cavendish University in Uganda pointed out the inequity in climate finance. While Africa is most vulnerable to the negative impacts of climate change, its contribution to global warming is minimal. Africa accounts for only 7% of total greenhouse gas emissions. The State of the Climate in Africa report shows sub-Saharan African countries will need between $30 and $50 billion annually to mitigate disaster relief costs. Separate research shows proactive climate action could deliver $26 trillion in global economic benefits by 2030 and create more than 65 million low-carbon jobs. Katangole believes Africa's current climate response is inadequate relative to the escalating challenges. Tensions persist in Malmo, Sweden's third largest city, as clashes have erupted between police and protesters following another Quran burning. Sweden's Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson described the events in Malmo as terrible and vowed to combat such violent actions. Salwan Momika, an Iraqi Christian refugee based in Stockholm, set fire to a copy of the Quran in the immigrant-majority Rosengard neighborhood of Malmo. The area previously experienced similar confrontations. Protesters threw rocks at the police in retaliation and set multiple vehicles ablaze, including those in an underground parking lot. Muslim youth in the Rosengard neighborhood set tires and debris on fire, demonstrating anger at Swedish police for not preventing another Quran burning. Police have arrested 15 people for attempting to stop Momika. Last year, Rasmus Paludan, a far-right politician from the Stramkors party, burned Quran copies in several Swedish cities, stoking anger. Denmark has proposed criminalizing the burning of religious scriptures. Sweden is also evaluating its legal options. The Arab community in Israel went on strike Tuesday to protest the rising number of violent crimes in their communities. Public and private institutions, businesses, and markets in all Arab towns and areas were closed as part of the one-day strike. The High Follow-up Committee for Arab Citizens of Israel called for the strike. It was prompted by a recent spike in violent crime in Arab communities. Local estimates indicate more than 150 Arabs have been killed in such crimes this year. That is a significant increase from the previous 2 years. The Arab community in Israel constitutes about a fifth of the population. That's all from our Chicago studios tonight. Thank you for tuning in. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon for the latest updates. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV or visit muslimnetwork.tv. Salam and good night.